again, we still have it above the mantle and we try to live by it.
Coming up in a future Oregon Life.
No, we got 5.
Okay, we'll get started. I call the Village Board of Oregon to order for Monday, July 1st, 2024. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Higgins,
Here.
Kirchdorfer,
Here.
Mankey,
Here.
McDaniel. Here. Peterson, Van Kampen.
Here.
And then noted for the record, Beshin is absent this evening.
Okay. Item 3, approval of June 17th, 2024 Village Board meeting minutes if correct, and corrections of mistakes if any. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Tim and Jason, we have a motion. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, public appearance, comments, and communications. Item for discussion and/or possible action. Public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including both items both on and off the agenda. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Otherwise, the agenda will proceed as posted. First, we have Edward Huck. Please, come on up. Please clear into the microphone, please, and then state your name and address.
My name is Edward Huck. I live at 1021 Drumlin Drive here in Oregon. I'm also the retired executive director of the Wisconsin Alliance of Cities. I've spent over 26 years lobbying for municipal governments. I was looking at your item 8B, and my comments will be relative to that, and I'll briefly state them. I think this would be a great opportunity to take advantage of a stormwater utility and a stormwater utility fee. And you could do that a couple of ways. I've mentioned it in the written comments that I provided for you. I'm assuming that you already review all your impact fees, your fire hydrant rental fees, some of those types of things, and they're up to date and maximized. But if you're going to be raising the property tax beyond the onerous and horrible levy limits that have been imposed upon municipalities for the benefit of the legislature and not for local governments or economic development, you're going to want to do as much as you can to keep the property tax down. This is an option I'd like you to consider. I also would like to encourage you to be very active with the League of Municipalities. There is going to be a strong push by some cities to get local option sales tax options. It is not something that I favor. I've studied taxes over the United States for a long time, winners and losers. Crazy things happen with those types of taxes. I strongly encourage you to get involved and pass on to the league your wishes for what would make a stronger village. And they'll be taking those, of course, at their summer meeting, and your resolutions will be very important. So I also encourage you to get involved there. And the rest is in writing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Anyone else for public comments? Seeing none. Item 5, approval of vouchers in the amount of $851,949.17. Staff recommendation motion to approve as presented. Tom and Tim, questions or comments? Hearing none. This is a roll call vote, please.
Van Campen.
Yes.
Mankey.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
McDaniel.
Yes.
Kirchdorfer.
Yes.
And Peterson.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda, staff recommendation, motion to approve consent agenda items as presented. That's items 6A and 6B. We have a motion by Jason. Amanda, second. Questions or comments on consent agenda items? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, report of committees, none. Item 8, unfinished business. Items for discussion and/or possible action. A, community survey proposal related to funding village services via potential referendum from community perceptions. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Martin, please.
So this is the community survey portion of the scope of services that Mueller Communications provided us as part of the referendum education work. This is a different vendor that they used for the community survey. So there's a separate proposal and agreement with this group.
Okay. Looking for, first of all, a motion to approve. Tim and Jason. Questions, comments? Tom?
I did note that this group is normally a school board referendum. That tends to be their specialty. And I did note in the proposal on page 30 that they refer to surveying parents and staff. And our scope of our proposal would probably be the entire village. And I guess just because we do sign it as there's a signature required at the end of it, I want to have that as corrected to actually reflect what we were have them intend to do.
Yep. We can do that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Lynn?
I have a question about the survey and then kind of the concurrent education that we're going to maybe do around this. So if I'm looking at the timeline, it says the week of October 21st, the survey lands in mailboxes. Prior to October or between October 21st and November 11th, are there opportunities for village residents to ask I'm wondering if we're doing any preemptive work prior to that survey hitting mailboxes, if we're doing anything when those surveys hit mailboxes to when they get turned in order to really make sure that village residents are as educated as possible before they send that? Or are we simply trying to get a cold feel from them about what their thoughts are here?
So I was going to get into this on the next item for
Sorry.
the update, but I can do it right now before you guys vote on this if you want. I mean, we can flip-flop it if you want, if that's fine. Otherwise, you can approve it and I can talk about it, whichever you want to do.
Want to wait or want to know?
I think it would be helpful to know that piece before
Sure.
approving this in case
Okay.
there's a concern.
So, Jeff, I'm going to take the screen really quick.
Okay.
So it'll work right away.
I'll get to it. Just trying to remember how we did. Oh, yeah. Just go ahead and I'll, should be up there. Is that you? Yep. Okay, I'll get the others.
Oh, I'm up on that one. Not that one.
Mm,
Weird. They're all separate.
You're up.
All right, I'll just start getting into it while he switches these other
Yep.
two. So the process for going through where we are right now to making a decision to proceed with a referendum is going to be basically 3 stages and then a final decision in January, presumably. So right now we are in the identifying needs phase, which is what are we even asking for? And so right now, all of our departments and other stakeholders of the village have been sent worksheets to help facilitate identifying those needs. And those worksheets, I have them up here, I'll just bring them up, are very simple. And I'll just show, so they got some instructions and some information on putting together what those needs might be. And so those worksheets look like basically 2 things, 2 questions. Over the next 5 to 10 years, what new staffing needs do you anticipate? And so it's very simple request. This is not an actual request. This is my fake example. A request, the reason and justification for that, an estimated annual cost, and then I have a ranking system that was on the instructions, basically 1 through 4. Number 1 is basically we need it right now, and it's for public health, public safety, employee health, employee safety, something that if we don't do it, some kind of severe consequence is going to happen. 2 is essential. These are things that are needed within the next 1 to 5 years. They're needed to maintain current village services at current levels. And if they weren't, we would have to do something to reduce those or eliminate those services. 3 is important. This is stuff like things that we want to work towards, goals, objectives. It might be a village goal, village-wide goal or objective, or it could be a department goal or objective. It does something to support the village's economic development or improves efficiency of operations. And then number 4 is just something that's nice to have, something that's 5 to 10 years out. Could be a priority in those 5 to 10 years out, but is more just something that provides some kind of greater convenience to the village or department that isn't really necessary right now. Like I said, all the departments are working on that. So there's number 1 is personnel related, and then there's a second worksheet, which is just ongoing operational costs that aren't related to personnel. So, my example here is just funding to maintain parks, an estimated cost, and then priority level. Another good example would be like when the library opened this year, new facility, we added on some costs because it's a larger facility, property insurance went up, utility costs went up, just maintaining it went up. And so that's the things that we're trying to identify. What are those little bumps that are going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years that we can try to accommodate? So right now, that's what is happening within the organization over the last 2 weeks, and they have through Friday, the deadline is Friday, to get that information in. So they've had a couple of weeks to do this. And so what will happen at the next village board meeting is we're going to turn that information around pretty quick for the board. And the board is going to be able to review everything that's been submitted. And essentially the question that will be put to the board is, what is, of what you have, what is off the table here? What are we just like, we don't even want to survey the community on this. Let's just take this out. Or are we missing something? Was something not added in that you wanted to see added in? And then also we'll look at preliminary property tax impacts. And I was going to show just a quick rough estimate of some really big round numbers. But this will be something that you'll see probably at the next meeting, that a little bit more refined potentially. But just in terms of dollar amounts, what does that impact look like on property taxes? So of course 2024 has actually happened, and we know that our assessed value, this was our levy, 9.1 million this year. This was the tax rate. And then here are some examples of different property values. 400,000 is around the median or average assessed home in the village. So if you had a $400,000 home property in the village, you paid $2,057.14 on village property taxes. And remember, your tax bill includes school, tech college, and county. So this is just village portion of it. So in 2025, we're looking at, this is what the assessed value is looking like it's going to be for the 2025 year. We have the base tax levy of 9.1 million, which we had this year. Carrying that forward, estimating for new construction levy, new debt service levy, of course, because we've added more debt service in recent years, so we're adding levy on, which is exempt from the levy limits. And then we talked about using the fire and EMS exception in the levy limit law to add some additional capacity there. And so we're looking at adding quite a bit of levy this year from using those different options. My estimate right now is around 9.9 million. There's the tax rate, and then you can see the effect on those different property values. And that percentage or the dollar increase is $117 from this year to next year, about 5.7% difference. Now we move on to 2026, because of course we'll build off of 2025. Here are 4 different options: 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million referendum. And those are just big round numbers. I'm not basing it on anything that's actually in those numbers right now. But trying to assume for where our assessed value will be at. It'll be a revaluation year. This year is just a maintenance year, so your most home values will stay the same as they were this year to next year. But then in 2026, we'll have a revaluation and everybody's properties will appreciate again. So trying to anticipate that plus some new growth. Again, using our typical new construction value. We do have some estimates for added debt service levy based on our capital plan, and then adding that referendum levy in on that bottom line there, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, or 4 million. So that would be our total levy, tax rate, and then trying to work in some appreciation into the property value. So if your home was 400,000 in 2024 and 2025, and then we do a reval in 2026, your home value will probably appreciate. And so I used an appreciation level of 5% for all the property values, and then divided across our expected levy. So if we did a $1 million levy, $1 million referendum, based on all those factors, you're looking at a $312.66 increase from the 2025 levy to 2026, and that's about a 14.38% increase. And then 2 million, you can see the differences there, about $500 increase for the $400,000 home, or a 24% increase. 3 million, 34%, 4 million, 44%. So you can see those kind of work their way across. So we'll have, this will be kind of similar to what you look like. I'll probably refine the numbers just based upon the needs that we get back. So, whatever the top end amount of the need is, I'll probably have an estimate for that and just break it down by different options there. So that's sort of what it's looking like in big round numbers. So, based on all of that information, on the 15th, in the next meeting, we'll have to decide of the needs that we are aware of, plus how we basically know where property taxes are, what do we want to move forward with and continue to evaluate as part of this referendum. So that's where we go into the next phase, which is this options assessment report. And what that will look like, and this is what Mueller will be working on for us, is they'll generate a report that looks very similar to this, because Mueller did this for Fitchburg. I have this link in the packet, and then they also did one for Monona, which I have in the packet as well. But basically, it's a report that gives some background about the community, talks about sort of the journey of how, in this case, Fitchburg got to the point where they're talking about a referendum. And for us, it'll be our journey for why we are talking about a referendum. Of course, population growth, a lot of the same things that are in this report. I'm sure we'll find a similar path into our report. Growing community, needs outpace city capabilities. Very similar things that we're seeing across all Wisconsin communities. So they'll have some information in there, and then what will happen at the bottom of this report, I apologize, I'm scrolling through here, is they're going to develop a series of options for us to talk about and think about. So in this case, in Fitchburg's case, their potential option A is basically like a public safety referendum option. 5 police officers, 6 firefighters, they have some transit stuff in there, and then they're working on a new police facility. Again, new facility, added cost. So then that translates into this little statement right here. This option A is a tax increase estimated $48 annually per 100,000 in assessed value, property value. The impact to an average Fitchburg home valued at $381,900 would be an increase of an estimated $183 annually. So that would be their first option they've identified. Then option B includes option A and then adds on some stuff. So now they've added on some additional staffing, some base wage stuff in their fire department, and it does the same thing. The property tax increase estimate, the value estimate on a average home, and then again, they keep going. Option C, adding more on. Option D, adding more. Option E, even more. And then option F, even more. And so that's what will come to the board on September 16th. Mueller will put this report together that takes all the needs that we give them. They chunk it up into these sort of different activities and options, and then evaluate the potential tax impacts so that you're aware of what those are. And really, again, it just answers the second question here of, okay, of what we want to consider in the referendum. What is a higher priority? What's a lower priority? And can we distinguish between some of these different options, public safety, public works, what have you? So assuming that gets approved and we move on to the next step, then we get to the community survey. And so this is really the gut check of, is what we're thinking we need and what the board thinks that the village needs, does that align with what the community thinks is going to be acceptable? And so what that ends up looking like, so it's a community-wide survey, it goes to every single residential address. And what the result of that is, this is the presentation that was given. Again, same vendor, Fitchburg uses the same vendor, and same process. So they will come on December 2nd, once the survey is done, and they'll provide a presentation about, obviously, respondents, some demographic information of respondents, but there's really two things in this presentation that are really important. So, of their options, they surveyed the community about these different options. So public safety staffing, minimum city staffing, police services facility, transit, comprehensive city staffing. And then what was the level of support for those different options? And obviously here you can see public safety staffing had 54% high support and was the #1 priority out of the survey. Minimum city staffing got second, followed by police services, transit, and then comprehensive city staffing. So then on this slide, you can see this line in particular right here. It's really important. So 14% of the respondents said that they would support a $5.8 million referendum. That was their highest option. And so when you get up to here, you can see about 56% said that they would at least support a $2.9 million referendum. And so when you look at their priorities based on the community survey, for Fitchburg, they figure that they can support, reasonably expect that they will have a referendum that will pass with these three things in it. And so for us, whatever our options are, we'll see, #1, where do people prioritize these things? And then #2, what is the dollar amount that people are willing to accept? And then how do those two things meet together in the middle? So when we get to December 2nd, we should be able to say, okay, we have our needs, we have our chunk them up into different options, and now we know where we think the residents will actually support, what they will support and how much they will support. And so when we go beyond that December 2nd meeting date, we'll get into January 6th, and that will be the last point where you'll have the decision to make of whether we move forward or not. And if we do move forward, for what and for how much. And so hopefully you'll have that information to be able to make that decision. Yeah, that's what this from here today till January 2nd will look like. And then again, if we move forward, January through April will be that community engagement, because we'll be engaging on those specific activities. You know, if it's public safety, like in the Fitchburg, we're going to want to engage on that public safety topic specifically to help people understand why that's important.
Okay, Lynn, you had the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you. That was really interesting and useful, and clearly a lot of work on your end. So thank you for that. I want to come back to, if I get the survey in my mailbox, are we doing anything to help me as a resident understand what our current situation looks like? Because we've talked about this before. If I get my survey and I already think that we have a certain amount of police officers on duty at all times, or that we have such and such and such, and I then use that knowledge that's just in my head to do the survey, that may sway my results, if that makes sense. So will there be some sort of community education of any kind, or like resources? I even thought like that report that you the first one, yeah, like is there going to be a QR code for people to go to or something when they get the survey to get some background information before they fill the survey out? I'm just wondering about how the information matches up to when it hits my mailbox.
So this will give you a sense of what this will look like. So here you can see Fitchburg has put on one of their buttons right on their webpage, referendum. And so they've aggregated all their information here. Obviously, you can see they did a news release related to the survey. And so what will happen when the survey goes out is there'll be information within the survey that people can go to, and then it'll link them to either this web page or right directly to this options assessment report. So that they can see, okay, why is, in this example, why is the city asking for the, minimum city staffing? Well, we can see they're talking about here public safety, calls, comparable communities, all of these different things. So there is some information being shared that can help people understand if they want to seek it out. And of course, you do the PR blitz of social media, website to help people know that this is out there and that they should do it and why it's important.
Great. Okay, so my last thing, I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time here. And this doesn't necessarily have to be contingent on approving the survey, but I do wonder if it would be helpful to have even, and I know that there are restrictions, like we can't be a part of this, but if there was an ability for people to come to a session to ask questions. I know there are a lot of people who are going to be very like overwhelmed, right, with this information, and we are steeped in it. We know what we're looking at, but the average resident may not and would really like to ask a question or kind of understand what the survey is asking them for. Something to think about. I think it's a great timeline. I think it makes sense. I just want to make sure that when people get the survey, they feel empowered, that they know what our village is working with instead of what they might assume we're working with or hope we're working with. Because if the survey is sort of our decision maker, or a major part of the decision-making process, I really want residents to take that survey with like open eyes, as opposed to the pie in the sky that like, oh yeah, we're always safe and it's a quiet community and all of those things. Like we're very safe and it is quiet, but like, I just want to make sure that people fill it out accordingly.
Yeah, and I can have a conversation with Mueller. I mean, obviously they've done this approach in several communities and see what they've been using and what they find successful for that.
Great.
And to say too, I mean, with the survey results, if the survey, let's just use this example. Let's say the survey came back as it did with 2.9, over 50% at least would support 2.9. Maybe the board feels really strongly, or the council in this example, about getting to that 3.6 million mark. What is it going to take in outreach to convince, another 10% of the people to get to that mark? And do you feel that you can do that much outreach between January and April to convince people of that? That's another element of this too.
Okay. I don't see any hands up. To recap, we're on 8A, community survey proposal related to funding village services via potential referendum committee. Perceptions, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Amanda?
Yeah, I appreciate all of Lynn's questions and all the work that you've put into this, Martin. I know like when the school district has done a referendum in the past, they've held listening sessions specifically. And there were a lot of them, and there were mailings to people's homes talking about it. So I would like to see us do that level of outreach so people really understand what we're asking for. I mean, we're never going to reach everybody, but that we really need to do a lot to make sure people understand it. So, yeah, just reiterating, I guess.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 8B, status update on process for potential referendum to exceed property tax levy limits tentatively planned for April 2025. Do you have anything additional, Martin? or-
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. And no questions, okay. 8C, review proposed adjustment to Village Board 2023-2025 strategic plan in consideration of prioritization of referendum work. We had a detailed memo in the packet. Martin, did you want to have something else to touch on that?
Yeah, this kind of dovetails nicely into this one. So when we did the village board strategic plan last July, about a year ago, we obviously didn't contemplate and plan to do the referendum work that we're about to engage in and have been engaging in really over the last 2 to 3 months already. Obviously, it'll take us all the way up over the next 6 months through the end of the year, and assuming we proceed, it'll go beyond that for another 4 months. So we're looking at another 6 to 10 months of really working on this. And so I think it would be good for the board to recognize that because this work wasn't included, that we should consider removing some items in there because we're simply not going to have the staffing or the time to accomplish some of these things. And some of them too may actually be better informed once the referendum has been passed, or either passes or fails, because that'll give us a sense of where we're at in terms of resources and priorities for some of these things. And so I have a list in the packet there. I think there's 6 items that I'm proposing to drop, and then just to add the referendum work to the plan itself. And then what I would do is redraft an amendment and bring it to the next board meeting for formal approval.
Okay, Tom.
Just had a question. I agree with almost everything you have here. I don't have any problems on the things that are being taken out of the strategic plan. I guess my question is, where do they go? Because some of them are good ideas, and I don't want to necessarily lose them, but they would be longer term in scope. And I guess just want to know, how can we have this as a pool of things to come back to later on? You're taking it out of the strategic plan. Sometimes things disappear, and I guess I would be concerned about that.
I think what we would do is, next year would be the next time for this plan to be discussed for the board and to readopt another 2-year plan next summer. So I think by next summer, we'll obviously be past the referendum and we'll see where we're at. And that'll be a good time to get back together and decide where we're at as an organization and decide if some of these things are worth putting in again or if we're in a different place.
Go ahead. Do you have more, Tom, or no? Jason?
So are you looking for a motion to direct the creation of a whatever, or? are
Looks
you
like we're
look-
just a general agreement. I
Or
think.
general agreement, head
Yeah.
nod?
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Lynn, please.
Yeah, I think this is very smart. I think that we can't do it all. The only one that I struggle with is the hybrid virtual in-person board meeting goal. One, because if we're going to ask residents about a referendum, I do want to respect the need that we have, which is people who can't come in person at 5. My question is this something that board members we could help with? Who would have done that? Who would do this?
I mean, there's a couple elements to this. There's the technical side,
Yeah.
which, this is sort of, I mean, and I guess it depends on the scope and magnitude of how much you want to be hybrid. I think that's probably a good policy conversation to have at some point too. But if the goal is, fully interactive, board members are participating remotely and in person, plus allowing residents to be able to speak at public comment or other spots in the agenda. Um, there's certainly a technical part of that too, and being able to sort of integrate those systems and have being able to see people at home if they're board members, and board members being able to see the body at the same time. Um, implications for open meetings and that sort of thing. So I guess depending on the complexity of it, the more robust it is, we don't have that information technology staff member. We don't have an audiovisual staff member. Obviously, we have OCA Media, but they're a separate entity. So we just don't have. I mean, if it's something much more minimal in scale, potentially, but we just simply don't have the staffing or, at this point, the time.
My compromise, my thought was, we have the evaluate and implement. I mean, we as people can reach out to our neighbors and understand what neighboring communities do. Like, I believe that these don't need to necessarily be on your shoulders. I guess what I'm saying is that would it be possible for us to help and gather information in that aspect, or would you rather us not get involved?
I think there's probably one question that would answer a lot of this, and it is, do you want village board members to be able to participate in these meetings remotely?
Amanda.
So I'm gonna, this one also bothered me. There was kind of an interim sort of solution that we talked about, and I don't know how hard or easy it would be to do this, but if we stuck with board members having to be here in person, if we could agree to that, then maybe we could just do a hybrid thing at the very beginning of the meeting for public comment. Because the main complaint that I hear is that people are working, they can't get here by 5 p.m., but they have thoughts and now, yes, people can email in advance of the meeting and things like that. Like, they can still get their voice heard, but sometimes things come up in the moment, and sometimes it's important to be live before the board, kind of a thing. So I'm wondering if it would be possible to just allow people to do that at the beginning of the meeting, and then we turn off the Zoom and they can watch the rest on OCA Media, because they can't really give input during the meeting anyway, right? So as a way to, okay, we hear you, we want to make it possible to hear what you have to say, and then we're virtual for the rest of it. I don't know. I mean, they can watch the stream on OCA Media after that. And then it would kind of limit the technological stuff we had to mess with.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it a lot easier. It's a lot simpler.
Yeah, I guess it would, I'm sorry.
Jason.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only policy discussion I would like to have around that is who's allowed. Is there a way to filter out random people from, say, like Nevada? How do we make sure it's not co-opted by anyone who's not a part of the village? Because I want to hear from residents, but with the current and ongoing political climate, I don't want that time to be hijacked by other people. But I love the idea.
Okay, Tom.
I guess a simplified cut, and that's a long ways from what's really written here in the strategic plan. And I guess I'd be comfortable taking it out of the strategic plan, but that either including that as a component within the referendum. And we say in the referendum will provide equipment and technology related to that would be an element of it. If you scale that back to simply having a public input section, a Zoom meeting at the beginning and so forth, and having a way to control that, usually you can in most of the Zoom meetings, who speaks and so forth. That's a pretty simplified technology. If I don't see that it becomes just strategic kind of initiative so much as simply this ongoing purpose of receiving public input in a variety of ways. And so I don't see it as a strategic thing. You would think of something as a little bit more elaborate and a little more technically involved. So I don't have a problem taking it out of the strategic plan, but maybe we should investigate as a low end kind of solution.
Okay. Tim?
I think given the amount of time and energy we're putting into discussing it right now, it is more complicated than it seemed at first. And the idea of taking it off because village staff is going to need to focus on this referendum now is actually the smart move. Let's push this off for a year. In a year, technology will develop in ways that maybe we don't have to invent this. Maybe Verona figures something out and we can copy it. And in the meantime, find other ways for people who want to be heard to be able to more easily speak to us, email or whatever.
Lynn?
Yeah, I agree. I think Tom, you put it well. I think taking it off of strategic plan, but I really do want to reiterate that I don't want to take this off of the priority, especially because we are going to have some discussions in the next 6 months that are crucial to our residents and the taxes that they pay. And I want people to feel like they can voice their ideas and concerns as we heard tonight. And so I would like I would like to see something interim, even if it is for that public comment. I think that's a great compromise. I don't know legally how that works and if that's a lot of work to have to figure out.
If I might suggest, it sounds like we're in general agreement to remove these, and perhaps we could add this to a future agenda item later in the meeting. Okay?
Great.
Right? Okay. So we have general agreement that we're going to go with the staff recommendations, right? Okay.
Yes.
Good. 8D, agreement amendment number 1 for agreement with Bierbacher Associates to provide planning consulting services in the amount of $5,000 for grant administration services on behalf of the Habitat for Humanity housing project located at 751 Janesville Street. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason and Lynn. That was a pretty detailed memo in the packet. I'm looking for any questions on that. Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 8E, agreement for subdivision improvements for Phase 2 of the Greenview Preserve plat with VH Greenview Preserve LLC and V&O Investors LLC. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. The motion, please. Tim and Amanda. Questions or comments on that item? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 9, new business item for discussion and or possible action. A, review owner's representative procurement process for future senior center building project and possible action on agreement for services with Vine Consulting. Martin, did you have something beyond the memo, or?
Do you want to go, or do you want me to go, Rachel?
You can go ahead. I think Martin did a great job with putting the details out in this memo. When we were here last May 20th, talking with the board about this, the direction was to explore the hiring of an owner's representative, and the staff went forward with that with a couple of goals in mind. Or we wanted to find somebody we felt would do a great job for the village, and we wanted to find somebody who would keep this project moving forward in a timely fashion. And in response to both of those goals, we thought about Jeff Vine and Vine CM, the company that Jeff runs. They did a great job for the library and had responded initially to our RFP a couple of years ago when we were looking for an owner's rep for part one of this project. The committee that analyzed all of those responses thought that Tri-North might do a better job with phase one, but that Vine would do a great job with the rest of the project. So given the track record and the knowledge that the village staff has, we met with Jeff, and I think all the reasons why we thought he would be a good fit for this project are outlined pretty well in the memo. If you guys have any questions for Jeff, he's here tonight, and happy to answer them. If you have questions for staff about why we came to the conclusions we came to, we'd also be happy to answer those. And Martin, have you got anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that covers it. We could go through another request for proposal process that would maybe put us out another 3 to 5 months. But we felt that Jeff had responded to our initial one, so we had that to go back on, and obviously a great experience working with him on the library project, and so we're very familiar with him. Very cost efficient agreement as well. So we're really comfortable moving ahead with him, and we think that saves us some time and can get working on the meat of the project here.
Any questions?
You want a motion or?
Well, we can do the motion first, sure. Give me a motion.
I give you.
Tom and Tim. All right, any questions or comments? Go
I
ahead,
guess
Tom.
I would just speak in favor of the motion, just from the standpoint that 3 to 5 months of RFP time. This is a project that I guess in my context in the village there's a lot of interest in and a lot of support, and people are more wondering why it takes so long as opposed to what actually is being done. So I guess I would speak in favor of it. And, it sounds like we have good experience. We've got the experience through the library and the relationships that's been provided already in relationship to the senior center. So it sounds like we could start expedite a process.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Amanda. You can finish up.
I'll just reiterate too, because I probably had more contact with Jeff than you guys did, but I was, part of the library building committee, and he always had answers to questions and was very helpful and informative. So I think this is a great choice. So, any comments? Okay. So all those in favor of approving Fine Consulting for the Senior Center project, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thanks,
motion
Am-
passes.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
9B, proposal for daycare/child care provider listening sessions on Thursday, August 8th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Oregon Public Library, and a child care summit on Saturday, August 10th at the Oregon Public Library from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Staff recommendation motion to approve as presented. I think this is, Jason, you're making a motion, or? And Tim second, and I think this is Lynn's initiative.
Yep, so this is a project that I've been working on with Elise and Leanne and the staff from the public library for the last month or so. Obviously, childcare is a very important part of my life, as in addition to lots of young parents. And I think it's important that the board, though we may not be able to fix some of the massive problems that do exist within this world, that we at least extend a listening ear to our residents to understand what it is that they are struggling with, and to explore if there are any, considerations we can have as a board. So we've proposed 2 specific sessions, one which will be simply for our daycare and childcare providers. It'll get sent to them via the mail. And then the Saturday one is open to parents. And just a really quick plug, I have had a couple people ask me about why it's called a summit. So if you Google summit, it is a meeting of masterminds of specific topics. And nobody is a better mastermind of childcare than those who care for said child. So I felt like it was an honorary title to give to parents who are experts in their children and how to take care of their children. And so hopefully, if this passes, board members, if you want to come, that'd be great to hear. But we'll put together a report as to what we hear and report back to you guys about what took place.
Okay. Anybody else? Amanda?
Great idea. I love this. Nice,
Thank you.
nice job.
And childcare will be provided because you can't do a childcare summit without childcare. So
Okay.
a big thanks to Community Ed and Rec and the Public Library who are both partnering to help us provide childcare. So if you're interested, there'll be an RSVP and you can sign up and we'll take care of your kids and hear about what we can do more.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this item. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, report of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only, no action by the village board will be taken. The reports are in the meeting packet. There's first is the village administrator report. Questions or comments? Item B, Director of Public Works Report, 2023 Water Utility Consumer Confidence Report. I know that was in the packet, but please
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead, Jeff.
It's in the packet. It's something that we issue annually. We're required to, but I think it's an important part of what we do, which is providing high quality, safe drinking water to our residents. Nothing too much to notice in this. One thing we did add to this year's report, we're seeing a lot more just questions and everything is on the PFAS and PFOS testing. This first year we've ever put that in there just as where does it come from? Why are we testing? And we do have actual required testing now coming down. But as shown in this report, we have non-detect on all of our testing, and we continue to get non-detect on all of our testing. And we're talking about incredibly small types of amounts when we talk about this PFOS and PFOS testing. Anyways, I just want a big shout out to Sue Poole, who helps bring this together. Lauren, Don, Gray, and Amos, and Katie, who do all of our testing annually. And I don't think people realize how often we're testing our water and how strict they are about that testing. And it's not something we can miss tests and everything. So they do a phenomenal job in just making sure we have our equipment up and operating and deliver that safe drinking water. We're confident in it. We drink it all the time. Drinking it now. Drink up. Yeah, exactly. Cheers, right?
All right, thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
10C, Finance Director Report, summary of building permits, impact fees, and connection fees collected for the period ending May 2024. Lisa's here if you have any questions or comments. Hearing none. Item 11, announcements and miscellaneous business. A, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Village board members will provide brief statements, but no discussion or action of the body shall occur. Item 1, ice cream social and dinner 2. Thursday, July 11th from 4:30 p.m. to 7 at the Oregon Area Senior Center. Entertainment by the Sutter brothers, including Dan Sutter, right over here.
That's right.
Please.
What could be better?
Right.
The Sutter Brothers.
Yeah, the Sutter brothers.
Brothers.
The Sutter brothers, all three of them, and they are very entertaining. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome. So we invite the whole community to come on out and enjoy some ice cream, some good music, barbecue. We'd like to see everybody. Week from Thursday.
Will you have Nutter Butters for the Sutter Butters concert?
Next year, that might be the good idea.
Okay.
Okay. Village board members, any questions or comments? Tom, you look like you got something to say.
I just wanted to comment, we received an email today or the other day in relationship to the Public Works response to Orfordville. And, I think that's the kind of thing that hands across communities that I don't know if we can prepare a press release or get something in the Observer or somehow get some recognition on it. It's a really good thing that when there's needs outside of our community that we can support and help them. I know, we will step across for, other, fire EMS and other areas and when there's things going on and just that recognition that we support and yes, we are Oregon, but we're a little bit more than that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff. Did you have anything to
No,
add?
well, I do, I think we sent some stuff out. It was
Right.
very, our storm of a week ago Saturday, really picked some small areas of the village to really wreak a lot of havoc. We're very blessed that it did not strike a quarter mile to the west, right in the middle of Summerfest.
I was evacuated anyway. But
It was still, it would have been there would have been a lot of, churros and stuff flying through the air. And would have really ruined Leon's day on that too. But, we're just very thankful that honestly no one was hurt. We had a lot of police on staff that night already, so that was phenomenal to have their support and everything. And fire was addressing things. It was, we're just very lucky that it didn't do much. We have been out chipping and cutting and removing trees, and it's going to continue to be an ongoing process. But we did receive that request from just kind of through our contacts with our village or with one of our engineering consultants, and we do help each other out. Like 5 years ago, was it 5 years ago when the Cross Plains happened? We sent our sewer jetter truck up there for about a week and a half to help them clean their sewers and everything like that. And honestly, they would do the same. I mean, in turn, other communities really step up, and that's just something that we do. All our organizations do everything.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for village board comments? Hearing none. Item 11B, future agenda items. Lynn might have one.
Could we add exploring a virtual public comment section to the agenda?
Yes. No objections? Okay. Anybody else? No. Item 12, closed session business. Item for discussion and or possible action. Under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Attendance is limited to the village board as discretion, any necessary staff, other officers, or other individuals whose presence is necessary for the business at hand. Looking for a motion, please. Jason and Tom. This is a roll call vote.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Kirchdorfer,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Van Campen,
Yes,
Mankey.
Yes.
we are.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, we are in closed session. Thank you.